Hi there. This is an interesting question without a simple answer. You won't be surprised to hear. It really is a case of sorting the wheat from the chaff and perhaps going with a recommendation, doing a little bit of research first. In my view, claims companies, if they're reputable, offer a perfectly intelligent business service. They take away the headache of running a claim. They know how the banks operate. They can sidestep little tricky questions or letters or offers that aren't for the full compensation. For example, if they get if the banks sort of slightly muck them around, and you have to be realistic. The banks don't want to give back all that money, and fair enough. If I was a business in a bank, I wouldn't want to either. So sometimes it needs someone with a little bit of horse sense to work that out and to navigate those sorts of problems. So that's one reason for using them. And another reason is, of course, that well, that's the main, actually that's not just one, that is the main reason for using them. They have got experience. And there are two reasons for using them. They have got, by the way, I should just say, my intention is to run these fresh and transparent, not to try and be too clever and do prepared speeches in front of you. So if they're a little bit long at first, you'll just have to bear with me. There are two good reasons for using claims companies. The first is they'll take away the headache. That's great. That saves you time. The second good reason is they may be able to get you a slightly better result than you would otherwise, simply because they've got experience. Now, there are, but most, in terms of what it costs you, most claims companies should really be charging around 25%. That's currently the benchmark out there. If they're charging 30%, well, maybe they're offering a very good service. If they're transparent about the fact that they're charging 30%, then I think that's acceptable. But hopefully they're charging 30% for good reason, get you a result quickly, for example. Don't forget that the way claims companies work is that they take on a very large quantity. And they make money by, to a certain extent, shelling peas. So now some will be taking on too many to handle. Some will be intelligent about the amount of claims that they're taking on. I'd love to recommend a particular claims company that I have an association with, but that wouldn't be in the spirit of this website. But they have, I was impressed, and the reason why I started to do business with them, because they were just handling a relatively small number of claims, and I could tell that they were therefore going to be giving good service and probably giving me good service. And, we can actually develop a good business relationship. So, the trick is to research them. Now you can, I think probably the word of mouth is probably the best way of doing this. If you don't know somebody who's had success with an existing claims company, what do? It's not enough to just check that they're registered with the Ministry of Justice. They should be, but plenty of charlatans are registered with the Ministry of Justice. After all, it's just submitting a form, paying a cheque, and then there are so many claims companies out there. I think there are probably thousands of them registered. It's impossible for the Ministry of Justice to police them all. So that's not sufficient in my view, that they're registered. I have first-hand experience of people who have been registered. The Ministry of Justice has pursued them, has brought enforcement proceedings, has taken them to court. And I've then discovered that they've reinvented themselves like Phoenix from the ashes and are now operating under a new name with a new individual. And it's really very difficult. As a barrister once said to me, in these cases you can't keep a good villain down. I would advise you to basically ask them some probing questions. Ask them, for example, are they associated with a law firm? And then bring up that law firm and ask that law firm, is this claims company, does it work closely with you? Now, I think that any reputable claims company will have wanted to develop an association with a law firm, and perhaps one of the reasons they'll be doing that is because they want to develop a long-term business. And I think that's a healthy thing. If a claims company is interested in the long term, that's another good reason to go with them. For example, if they've been around a long time, that's a good sign too. Find out, ask them the question, for how long have you been registered? So those are the things to do. The other thing you can do is, of course, look on the consumer websites. I think it might take you a long time to go through them. It depends whether you're internet savvy, but that's another way of a perfectly good way actually of finding out whether or not a claims company is reputable. You could email me. I don't quite know how I would deal with that email, but if it was any of the ones that I have knowledge of who are disreputable, I wouldn't hesitate to email you back and tell you what I know about them. I'm not sure I can publish information about claims companies because I might get in trouble. I might be libelous if I'm not careful. You've got to be careful about what you say. So I think probably the best thing to do is to ask claims companies a series of questions, and they will take a slug of the compensation, and that's perfectly reasonable because that's the service that they're offering. You might also ask them how long it takes them to settle their claims. Some claims companies will take longer than others. So that is my tip on claims companies. And the advantage of using claims companies is that they will get your money more quickly than if you handled it yourself, or than if you sent it to a lawyer. And by handling myself, I also mean going on, submitting a complaint to the bank and then going on to the Financial Ombudsman Service. They'll be quicker than that. The drawbacks, they will take a percentage of the compensation you ultimately get, and the other potential drawback is that certain claims of a complex nature, they won't know how to get the most out of them, and they may be short-changing you because, as I say, their business model is to run as many claims as they possibly can through the business, through the factory. Therefore, they may just be taking the sort of the leanest cuts of meat, if you like, and throwing everything else away, and your claim may be worth a lot more than they lead you to believe.